Good afternoon, everyone. Let's please wait for a couple minutes for everyone to join and then we can get started. So, good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to Swift Bengaluru's online meetup. So, yeah, I think everybody is enjoying the festival vibes. We had a lot of continuous festivals. Yeah, wishing you all a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. And it feels amazing to see, this count during the festival vibes. And this is one major reason why we didn't want to miss upon our events that we actually organize every month. So that's the reason we made an online meetup for this. So yeah, once again, warm welcome to all of you. So yeah, without much delay, I think we can get started off with today's event. Let's quickly have a walkthrough about the agenda that is lined up for the day. So we have two talks that are lined up. The first one is humanizing UI with Swift UI. And the second talk that is lined up for the day is enhancing productivity in iOS development with AI tools. So after that, it is followed up by breakout rooms where we have really interesting questions, iceberg questions, and also a chance for networking with everyone. Yes. So without much delay, let's start off with the first talk for the day. I would like to welcome Kashish Sharma, who is currently working as a product engineer in HiTribe AI, for a session on humanizing UI with Swift UI. Hi, Kashish.
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. And I would like to just give me 1 minute. I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So before I begin with the session, I just want to ask people that have you ever opened an app and thought that why this app just gets me, or like the complete opposite, that this feels so cold and so robotic, right? And honestly speaking, that feeling isn't just random. It's all about how humanized the UI is, right? So a little about me first, that I'm Kashish, a product engineer at HiTribe AI, and I tend to create products that make life and work less boring well. And I'm always up for optimizing my code and love to talk about big ideas and some late night sessions for problem solving, etc., etc. And I've been featured on New York Times Square billboards. I've been awarded by Microsoft MVP like twice in developer tool space. And in my college time, I've also done some GSOC for like twice. So enough about me. Um, Moving on to today's session. So I have built like a lot of products in tech right now, but today I want to show you how SwiftUI makes it easy to design interfaces that feel alive, personal, and emotional as well. So we'll explore in this session what humanized UI is, why it matters, and I'll walk you through a live demo where your UI reacts to um, user moods in real time. So, what exactly is a humanized UI design? So, humanized UI design is designing interfaces that feel alive, personal, and intuitive instead of just being functional. It's about making softwares react with like a human would, like understanding the context, responding emotionally to the user, and creating moments of delight for the user. So now that we know what a humanized UI is, why do we have this need to actually humanize the UI? So first of all, it has a lot of reasons, but first of all, it's because it boosts the engagement for your product. So users interact more with the apps that feel alive and responsive. Next, it builds emotional connection with your user and the product. So interfaces that respond to moods or action, it creates trust and delight. Next, it improves the retention and thereby somewhere reducing the churn. So people stick with apps or products that feel personal and intuitive. And last, it differentiates your product in the sea of products. Like it humanizes your UI, and your UI or your products becomes more memorable. So it gives a moat around your product. So these are basically the needs that are required. So now that we know what exactly is and what is exactly the need for the humanized UI, so let's look at some key principles that are also required when you're trying to build a UI in that space. So first is you need to have an emotion mapping when you're building a product. So interface reacts to user feelings. Second, you need to have some kind of micro interactions embedded in your product. So small animations that feel very natural to the user. And third is context awareness. So design that changes based on environment or state. And then we have conversational design. So UI feels like it understands the user. And we're going to talk in detail more about these key principles, like how to implement them in your product. But first, I want to like show you these two screens, and I want to ask you, like, if you are a user and the only job you're as a user for you right now is that you have to um, push your current mood to the UI. So if you are like interacting with the product and only job for you right now is to just feed in what kind of mood you are in right now. So as a user, would you prefer the screen A or screen B? You can just drop that thing in the chat. But for me personally, if we talk about me right now, I would prefer the screen B, and I'll tell you why. So because one of the reasons is that it feels like it's more like having a conversation than a just a cold dashboard for me. And notice how the button labels use languages like how you're feeling today instead of just giving me select an option. And that small change adds emotional context. The colors shift based on mood categories. So warm colors for happy moods, cooler tones for calm moods. And this kind of changes makes the UI empathetic instead of feeling super robotic. And this goes a long way. So now that we know all about this now, so let's look at some of the basic ways to actually humanize the UI. So first is kind of mood-based UI. So let's say if you're building kind of a product in which you need to feed in the mood of the user or any kind of um, parameter which requires an emotional context. So in that kind of thing, you can play around with the background colors, you can play around with the gradients or the fonts specifically based on the user mood or context. So again, like warm colors for a good mood or like a darker or a cooler tone for a sadder mood or something like that. So these are the parameters that you can play around with in that context. Second is if you have to add like micro animation, so you can probably do something like animate the buttons or animate the icons on the UI, or the cards can scale or bounce or fade or rotate, or like specifically these are triggered when a user do some kind of event, which can be a tap or a swipe or a gesture. Third is adaptive copy and tone. So by this, what I mean is that you can show personalized messages or greetings or tips that reflects the user context. Next is haptic feedback and sound, and this is one of the most ongoing trend that is specifically in the product development these days. So you can use like light vibrations or subtle sounds for taps, like success screens are there or error screens are there. So we can validate or acknowledge them those screens with haptics. Next is interactive elements. So if you want to add some interactive elements, we can add something like swipeable cards are there, draggable sliders or toggle gestures to make the UI feel more alive. Next, we can add some personalization and dynamic content. So we can display user-specific statistics or emojis or recommended like action dynamically. So these can be like toggle features or slider features, and these can be paired with the emojis or the statistics that we are trying to display on the screen. And the next is accessibility friendly design. So these can include like having a support for the voiceover or the dynamic types or color contrast and gestures to include everyone. So if a user is having some kind of disability with like hearing or paired vision, so we can use these kind of voiceover features, which can actually facilitate them to use our product. So why Swift UI for this? First, it has a declarative syntax. So it is easy to bind UI to state changes and the UI reacts naturally to user actions. Second is it has a built-in animations and transitions library. So animate elements with animation or transition or matched geometry effect for dragging objects on the UI for smooth emotional feedback. Next, we have state management. So with state and binding an observed object, it makes a dynamic and responsive UI effortlessly, and it has adaptive design as well. So Swift UI handles the dark mode, accessibility, and dynamic type automatically. So there's nothing like we have to add externally. And then obviously the rapid iteration happens, like preview life changes in Xcode. We don't have to play the app again and again. So that's obviously an added advantage. So I would just like to show you a little demo for how can we implement this. Let me just share my screen again. Yeah. So I have created basically a mood integrating app. So basically the user have to just input their current mood into the app, but we are trying to also incorporate the humanizing UI principles into this, and we can see like how exactly we can incorporate these. So right now I have a model file for this. So it has all the moods listed over here, and it has the emojis that we can show the different emotions with. I think my screen shared. 1 second. Yeah, we're back. Okay. So then we have the greetings over here. Like we have to write some copies also. So I have written those as well. And because I want to add some background colors and I want to have some accent colors and the font weights to change according to the user mood. So I've added all those in the model right now. So if I just begin to write the code, I first want to integrate a function that has an enhanced mood button and also gives me the haptic feedback to it. So let's start by creating a function. We can call it enhanced mood button, and it will take a parameter as the mood which we had in the model, and it will return us a view. So we can, because we want it as a button, so we can just integrate that. And I want the action to be a view, like it goes with my view model. Yeah. So it takes the current mood that has been selected. And I want basically the UI to be in a V stack. So I'll just create that. Let's give it a spacing of 15. And can say something like we want to basically show the current, like the mood emoji that we have stored in the model. And let's give it a font of um, let's give it a size of 45. And I also wanted to have like a scale effect. So I think for the view model, we can take the selected mode, and if it's equal to the mode, it can have a scale effect of 1.15 or 1. And then we can add an animation as well. So I want to add a spring animation, which will have a response of, let's say, 0.4, and damping fraction of 0.7. And value, I think we can give it from the view model as selected mode. Okay. And then in the next, in the V stack, we want also a raw value, and we can give it a font. Of can be 15, and weight can be, I think, semi-bold, and design, I want it to be rounded. Okay, and also change its foreground color to white. Okay, so we can now add the background for the button that we are integrating. We can give it like a width of 100, or maybe 110 for both, and it can have a background. Let's keep it rounded rectangle and with corner radius 5. If it's having the selected mode, then we can give it the accent color with opacity as 0.4, or it will have white with opacity as 0.08 or 9. Okay, I think I have. And it can also have an overlay of a rounded rectangle. Basically, I want to give it a stroke. So corner radius can be 25 again, and it will have a stroke. Again, checking for the current mode, and it can be something like accent color. Or it can be just here. And I think we can also give it a line width. It can be, well, I think 3. Yeah. Also, like right now, let's add a shadow also to this box. It can have a color from the view model as selected mode. And again, the accent color with opacity. And then again, let's give this whole button a scale effect. So again, if it's having a selected mode, or 0, 1, or let's give it 1, yeah. And then also add an animation to it. So it can have like spring with a response of 0.4 and damping fraction can be around 0.7, and we can give it a value of view model dot selected mode. And I think we can also give it a button style, which can be just a plain style. And I think we have some errors. Let me do just some debugging for this. And for this, 5, then we have a stroke. Mm, I think we can like try to run this once. Okay, we can like call this later. Let's try to build it once. It might take a minute, so let's just give it its space. I think in the meantime, we can also um, add one more button for this, but let's wait for this to run once. Yeah, okay. So currently, this is what our UI looks like. But right now, I also want some background colors also to come on it. So we have, like, we can see the buttons are having the stroke, the color, and everything is happening, and the scaled effect is also coming in. I think we can do one thing. We can also add some background colors to it. So as the user changes, um, basically their mood, the background colors also changes with that. So for that also we can like have one more function which can be called something like, let me just stop this once. Yeah, which can be called something like background with particles, and it will also return a view. And because we want the particles to come like in the background, so we can have like a Z stack. And I basically want the background colors to not come like totally in the background. I want them to be in a gradient format. So for that, I can use a linear gradient. And the gradient can be gradient with colors, and it can be for different modes. So it can be something like, from my view model, I can call the selected mode. And for that, I want to show the background color that we have already set. And again, for the selected mode, we'll have the background color with an opacity. So it feels like a good gradient will go in the background. And then we can have color dot black. And it can have opacity of 0.9. Okay. We can add a start point with top leading, I think, and then with endpoint we can have trailing. Let's separate here. Yeah. And I think we can also give this an animation because we want the background particles also to come up. So for that, for this, I can give ease in or ease and out. And it can have like a duration of 1 second. Value, I can give it the selected mode. We'll come to the debugging in the end. For now, let's just complete the code. So let's start a loop because this is specifically for the particles, the number of particles I'll be wanting to float in the background. So it can be somewhere between 0 to 35. And we can give an ID itself. And let's just start it with index in. And this like I basically want circular particles to float around. So these can be like, or basically we can also call it from a view model. View model, obviously the selected mode, and the color that's there with opacity 0.1. Then I can also give them a frame like the size for the particles. So I think the width can be random completely. I don't want to set them in one size. Can be random. And 3 to 6. And then we can set the position. So for X, it can be easy flow spot random. This can be in 0 to UI screen. Mean for Y again, same. And again, I want them to animate because we have to do the floating animation for them. So it can be something like um, animation dot ease in out, and we can give it like a duration of double dot random, and can be in 3 to 4 values, maybe 6, and we can just have a repeat forever. And probably like give it a value as view model dot selected mode. And it can really ignore the safe area. So now let's do some debugging in this. Okay. A lot of typos. Not random. It is in. Okay. Okay. I think let's try to run this once. I think it's still picking up. Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. So as we can see, like the particles also are animated right here, and these are completely randomly and they are floating. So basically, whenever user, like if the by default the selected mood is neutral, but as the user changes their like mood, so whenever there's a happy mood, the particles are enjoying, and you can see one of the things that the font weight is also shifting when we try to change the mood for the user. The background also feels or shifts with the user's mood. If it's calm, it's giving a calm green color. If it's excited, the color changes, and the happy. So something like this. So and the particles also move with the same velocity. Let me just quickly share my screen again. So yeah, basically this kind of UI, it's just not having a UI that just looks good, but also how it blends in with the functionality. Like we just saw that it was just not aesthetic, but it was also having some kind of functionality. So I would say that the formula for creating a UI that interacts or is actually basically very intuitive to the user. It's having like an intuitive aesthetic, plus it coincides like the functionalities there is actually directly proportional to the user delight that we are trying to target. So, yeah, that was all for the session today. And I hope I was able to communicate some kind of product principles that we want to include when we are building one. Um, so yeah, that was all for the session, and I've created one feedback form. So you can just scan the QR on the code, and if you want to give in any kind of feedback for the session, whatever you liked or didn't like, you can just take in, and I would love to take the suggestions. Also, I create content on Instagram and LinkedIn, so feel free to just connect with me on these handles. And yeah, thank you so much, and keep learning.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kashish, for the session. Yeah. Moving ahead with the next talk for the day. It is on automatic UI generation using macros. So I would like to welcome Sukrita, who is currently working as product engineer at UST.
Hi everyone. If you can hear me. Oh,
Yes, Sukrita, you're audible. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Um, Let me just share my screen. Um, are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Yeah. Your screen is visible, Sukrita. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏, for introducing me. Myself, Sukrita. I'm a product engineer at UST Trivandrum. And for the past 3 years, I have been crafting iOS applications using SwiftUI. And today we are here to see automatic UI generation using Swift macros so that you write less boilerplate code and build faster. Swift macros were introduced in Swift 5.9 as one of the biggest announcements of WWDC 2023. I think you all may be familiar with macros, though may or may not be Swift macros, but you guys may be somehow familiar with macros. So macros are something like, think of it like a shortcuts, so that you need not have to write all the boilerplate code or all the repetitive code. You just need to declare a macro and the compiler expands the full code automatically for you. That is how the macros work. All you have to do is just call a macro and the compiler will fetch the expansion of the macro, and the execution will go like as if you have written the entire code in the same file. So this is how macros work. So there are basically two types of macros: freestanding macros and attached macros. Freestanding macros act like global functions generating code from arguments. An example can be a hash URL and a URL passed as an argument. So what this URL macro will do is it will validate the URL passed as the argument. So that's a freestanding macro. Then we have attached macros. So attached macros applied to declarations like types, properties, and functions for modifying or adding code around them. An example can be an observable on the classes. So before macros, we have been using observable object with classes, but after the introduction of macros, we can use an at observable object, at observable annotation. So these are the two basic kinds of macros: freestanding macro and attached macro. The basic difference between both of them is that freestanding macros works with arguments, whereas attached macros works on types like classes, enums, and struct, and properties and function. That's the major difference between a freestanding macro and an attached macro. One more difference is that freestanding macros will always start with a hash sign, and the attached macros will always start with an at sign. So that's the difference between these macros. So based on our use case, we can choose which macro that we need to use. So today we'll be looking at building a macro called form builder. So just to understand the situation or the scenario, I have created a case study. So the situation is like this, like you have an application which lists down a list of people, and each person will be having a lot of information. So for example, imagine that you are building a contact application and you will be having a list of contacts with you. So for each contact, you will be having many information like name, phone number, email address, address, is that a favorite contact or not, such that many information will be with you. So now the task is you are asked to create a form to edit these fields. Think I'm clear. Your task now is to edit these fields using a form. So in a traditional approach, what you will be doing is for each of the entry in your DB, you will be creating a form, like a text field for name, a text field for email, text field for phone number, a toggle button for each favorite, or if you have a list of input, maybe a picker would work. So for each of the entry in your DB, you will be having to create a input field for that. But now with the introduction of macro, you need not have to declare all this in your code. It's easy for you that you just define a macro and the macro will be building the UI for you, such that you need not have to write all the boilerplate codes or all the repetitive text fields and UIs. You just need to tell what are all the contents inside it, and the macro will be building it for you. So the solution that we are going to build today is define a macro called form builder that auto generates a form UI for any Swift struct. This is what we are going to build today. So how does it work? Let's come to it later. So yeah, let's see an example how our code would look like before we implement the form builder and after we implement the form builder. So before we implement the form builder, this is how our code would look like. So we have an edit contact screen. It's a view. Inside that we have three variables, one for name, one for number, and one for each favorite. And then we have our body. Inside the body, we have a form. We have a text field for entering name, another text field for entering number, and a toggle button for the favorite state. So this is how our view would look like before we implement the form builder. And after we implement the form builder, the code will be just these few lines of code. You just need to give a form builder annotation at the top of the view, and inside the view, you just need to give all the variables whose view you need to build. So it's just like this, and the body of this view will be automatically created by the form builder. So this is something we are gonna do now. So before we begin, let me show you a demo how it would look like. So over here you can see the edit contact before we having the form builder macro. So inside the body we have a form and two text fields and a toggle button. Here you can see the preview. Here you can see the preview. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the body and I'm gonna use import my macro. And inside the macro, I have my form builder macro, and I'm gonna annotate this view with this form builder macro. Let's refresh the preview. It works exactly the same as before. Now let me add another variable for maybe an email, and it's gonna be a string. For now, let it be an empty string. The preview is reloading. Perfect. It has created another text field for the email. I didn't do anything extra. I just declared one more variable for email. Similarly, I can do as many as I want. For example, another for show profile, and it's gonna be a boolean. So for boolean, it will be showing a toggle button. Let's refresh the preview. Perfect. It has created a perfectly working toggle button for me. So this is what we are gonna build today. So for that, I have clearly defined a few steps, just 4 steps to build a macro. So the first one is to create a macro package. So for that, in Xcode, we need to select file, new package, and choose Swift macros. Then we need to name the package, and Xcode will automatically set up the necessary structure, including a library, a client app for testing, a compiler plugin, and test targets. All this will be automatically implemented by Xcode. So let's do that. And file, new, package, make sure that it's a multi-platform and select Swift macros. So click next, include the test, and I'm gonna name it my demo macro, and I'm gonna create it. Here you can see a package file, just like for all the packages, and one package is automatically implemented here for Swift syntax. And here you can see some template files. So here Xcode has already provided a macro for us for reference. It's called stringify macro. So here is the declaration of the stringify macro. This main file is just like a playground just to test what you are building. And here is the actual implementation of the stringify macro. Here you have the test cases for running the macros. So these are the boilerplate codes or the reference macro that Xcode is already providing. We can just refer this stringify macro and build our own. So here you can see that this is how the macro would look like. It's a freestanding macro, so that's why it's a hash sign, and stringify is the name of the macro. Then we can pass an expression x plus y. So the macro expansion for this stringify macro will be the result of x plus 5 and the expression by them itself. So here in the playground they have given a 17, b is 25, and they have applied this macro stringify of a plus b. So the result will be the sum of a plus b, and the code will be this expression itself. So when they are trying to print this, it will print something like the value 42, I think, was produced by the code 17 plus 25. So when you run this code, you will be getting something like this. So I think I'm clear. What this stringify macro will do is it will be returning the sum and the expression. So that's an example of stringify macro. Let it be there. What we need to create is our own macro, the form builder macro. So let's get back to step 2. So step 2 is implement the macro logic. Write the core logic of your macro within your compiler plugin. This involves conforming to Swift macro protocols, for example, member macro. You will use Swift syntax to parse the provided code and generate the new source code based on your macro's purpose. So now what we need to do is we need to implement our macro logic. So I have said earlier that here is the place where we implement the actual logic of our macro. So just like our stringify macro, let's implement our macro. It's going to be public and it's a struct. Our name of our macro is form builder macro. Let me just form builder macro. And here we can see that this macro conforms to expression macro. This is a protocol. This conforms to expression macro just because this is a freestanding macro and it works on the expression, the argument passed to it. But for in our case, what we will be working on will be a member macro. Member macro just because here we have seen that we will be applying our form builder to a struct, and the operation will be done in the members of this struct. To the members of this struct, we will be adding the modification, addition, extra will be done in the struct. So that's why we are using a member macro. So member macro is just nothing but a protocol, and inside that we can see an expansion function. So let's implement the expansion function here. We need to make, we need to make this public because the parent is public. Yeah. Here you can see that this expansion macro will be throwing an array of declaration syntax. So what's a declaration syntax? Declaration syntax is actually a group of syntaxes like class declaration syntax, enum declaration syntax, function declaration syntax, struct declaration syntax, variable declaration syntax. So for all the types in Swift, there will be a declaration syntax. So an array of declaration syntax just means that it can be, if you expand a macro, you will be getting an array of different declaration syntax. So yeah, that for now, let's just return an empty array. Perfect. Let's get back to our steps. So here they have said that you will use Swift syntax to parse the provided code and generate the new source code based on your macros purpose. So based on our macros purpose, from the declaration syntax, we need to build our view from the declaration syntax. So what's Swift declaration syntax? For us, our form builder macro works on a view, right? So every view will be a struct. So our main concern is that our form builder macro must work only on struct declaration syntax. So this will be the syntax of a struct declaration syntax. It will be having attributes. It will be having modifiers, if any. Then it will be having the struct keyword. Since it is a struct declaration syntax, it will be having a struct keyword and an identifier. Identifier means just the name of the syntax. Then a member block. Inside the member block, we will be having a left bracket and the members, which will be a list of member declaration syntax, and then a right bracket. So this is a rough sketch of the declaration syntax, struct declaration syntax. So in our case, we will be needing the Swift declaration syntax only. So let's make sure that our form builder macro will work only on the Swift struct declaration syntax. So for that, let's make sure here when a macro is expanded, the declaration will be sent. So let's just make sure that declaration type is struct declaration syntax, or else let's just throw an error that the struct init error, that this is not a struct, an error like that. Let me just copy paste the error also. This is just a simple thing, just a enum called struct init error that conforms to error with a case called not applicable to struct and a description. So if the declaration is not a struct declaration, then it will be throwing an error. In the else case is where we need to write the core logic, that we need to build the view, the body of our view. This is where we need to build a body. So before that, we need to know how will be the structure of our struct declaration syntax. So let's get into that later. Let's get to step 3, which is declare your macro. The first step is to register your macro in the compiler plugin. So over here, you can see a compiler plugin. So what's a compiler plugin? Compiler plugin is a protocol, and inside that you can see a providing macros. Providing macros is nothing but a list of macro types. So they have already provided the stringify macro type. So now let's just provide our macro type, that's form builder macro dot self. Done. Now the next step is define your macro using Swift macro keyword and specify its type as freestanding or attached. I have discussed about freestanding and attached earlier, but for the declaration we have, before that, about the compiler plugin. So the compiler plugin is a protocol that bridges between your code and the Swift compiler, telling the compiler which macro you are building. So for example, when you're running your code and the compiler sees a macro, so the compiler will be sending the macro to the compiler plugin. Inside the compiler plugin is where the macro expansion resides. So based on which macro the compiler sends, the macro plugin will expand the macro and will be sending back the expansion back to the Swift compiler. So when the compilation continues, it will work as if you have written the entire code in the same file. It doesn't make any difference of compiling in a compiler plugin. So the entire, in effect, the compilation will work as if you have written everything together. So that's the use of a compiler plugin. Now for declaring a macro, this is the format for declaring a macro. So first you will be having a category. The category can be either freestanding or attached based on your requirement. If it's for arguments, you can use freestanding. Or if it's for type, properties, or function, you will be having attached. For in our case, we'll be using attached because we'll be working on the struct property, struct type. So we'll be using the attached category. And for the role, we have for freestanding, we have two roles, expression and declaration. For attached, we will be having peer, accessor, member attribute, member, and conformance. So the role is actually for based on your requirement, you need to specify the role. For in our, we'll be using the member role because it adds new declaration inside the type or extension it's applied to. So if we need this member because we'll be applying our macro to the struct and we'll be modifying the members inside the. So for that reason, we'll be using the member role. And then we'll be having a public keyword, then a macro keyword. And this is the signature of our macro, which contains the name of the macro. If there are any input types, the type for the input, and if there are any output, the type for the output. So this is the basic syntax for declaring a macro. Now let's declare our macro here. Here we have the example for the stringify macro. In the same way, let's create the macro for our case. So here it's a freestanding macro. For our case, it's an attached macro, and it's gonna be a member macro. And then the names is named body, because it will be creating a member called body inside that struct. So just as the same, it will be public. Just as the same, it will be macro. And the name of our macro will be form builder. Form builder. And for now, it doesn't have any input or output. And then let's, from here, it will also be an external macro because the expansion of the macro resides in this module. So it will be an external macro. So the module name will be the same as the stringify macro. and the type will be the type which we have defined over here, the form builder macro. This will be the type. So we are good to go. We have declared our form builder macro. So the next step would be testing and usage. Validate your macros expansion behavior by writing tests in the dedicated test target. Once confirmed, import your macro packages to your client project. So yeah, now we have defined our macros, but earlier we have we have left with the implementation logic over here. Now what we need to do is we need to run this macro and see how our struct declaration structure will look like. So for that, since we are in another package, the best method would be to run a test. So just like they have done for the stringify, let's write a test for form builder. I'm gonna name it test form builder, and it will be a throws. Let's use the same function, assert macro expansion. Yeah, here we need to pass the original expansion, the extended source, and the macros. Expand. Okay, great. Great. Here we need to pass the earlier version before using the expansion, before the macro expanded, how the form would look like. So we already have that over here. So before the expansion, it would look like this, just a struct with an annotation of form builder. But once we expand it, it should look like this, the entire code with the body. So it should look like this. And for the macros here, they have passed test macros. So what's test macros? Test macros is an array of macro types. So the name of our macro will be the form builder. This is the name of our macro, and its type is form builder macro. Great. Now let's pass this test macros over here. Yes. What we need now is, let's run this test with a breakpoint over here so that we can print out the struct declaration syntax. Let's run the test. Yeah. So the test is running. Now let's print out the tree structure of this struct declaration. Perfect. You can see a tree-like structure. This is the struct declaration syntax. Let's just copy paste it somewhere for the future reference. Let me just paste it over here. Yeah, perfect. Here you can see it's a form builder, and inside the name of the struct is edit contact. It's a view, and inside that we have a member block. Inside that we have members, and for each member we have a variable declaration syntax. Inside the variable declaration syntax, you will be having bindings. Inside the binding you have a pattern inside which we have name, and inside the type we have the string. And similarly for the second variable declaration, we'll be having the number and its type is string. And the third variable declaration we have over here is favorite and its type is boolean. And then we have the last right curly bracket. So this is the syntax tree for a structure that we have passed. So let's refer this. And what we need now is we need to create the body of the struct. So right now we only have the variables and name of the struct. From this information, we need to build the body. So for that, you might have noticed that all the variables resides inside the member, inside the members. Inside member block, inside members, we have all the variables. So let's just get those members first. So I have already copied some code over here. Yeah. Let me just keep it over here. Oops. Okay, let me just paste the members. So inside the struct declaration, inside the member block, inside the members will be the members. Okay, now we need the variable declarations from that. So inside the members, we will be having many variable declarations index. So I think you might have seen, first one is this for the name, the second one is this one for the number, the third one is this one for the is favorite. So let's group those variable declarations. Then what we need now in the next stage is to get the name of the variable and the type of the variable. So inside the variable declaration, inside the bindings, inside the pattern, we have the name. And for the type, inside the bindings, inside type annotation dot type, we have the type of the variable. So let's get the name variable names and variable types by just looping over the variable declarations. Perfect. I think till now it's you will be able to follow. Like you just loop over the struct declarations and just fetch all the variable names and variable types. So the task next is to build the body. So for building the body, you might know the first step is to the usual word var body sum view, and inside the body you will be having a form. So I have created the open bracket for the form, and now with the variable names and variable types we need to create the input fields. So let's loop over the variable names and variable types, and for each of the variable names and variable types, let's, based on the type of the variable, let's create the input field. So if it's a string, let's create a text field with the placeholder as enter the name of the variable, and it will be binding to that variable itself. And if it's a boolean, let's create a toggle button. So if it's a boolean, let's create a toggle button with the placeholder as the name of the variable, and its binding will be to that variable. So I think it's clear till now. So based on the type of the variable, we'll be creating the input form. And now we have got the body, the opening form, and the input fields. Now what we need is we need to close the body, close the form, and then close the body. Perfect. Now let's return this body as a Swift declaration syntax. Perfect. Let's run the test again, so that let's make sure that if this is the input, this will be the output. Yes, test succeeded, which means that when this is the input, this is the kind of input, this will be the kind of output. The one with the full body with form and the input fields will be automatically generated by this form builder macro. So we have successfully built the form builder macro. So the next step is to, let's get back to step 4. So once confirmed, import your macro package into a client project. Use your macro in real code and compile to see if it translates in action. So let's try it out now. We have created our form builder macro. Now let's create a project and try to use this macro there. So create new project. I'm gonna name it contact app, contacts app, create. Perfect. Now let's create our, I'm gonna create it over here itself. Let's create our edit screen, which is this edit contact. So before the form builder macro, it would look like this for each of the input variables. we will have to manually define the input form. Let's reload. Building. Sorry. Let me change to a mobile device. Yes, the preview should be the edit contact. Inside that we can pass just the name is gonna be number. Let it be something like this. Yeah. Perfect. This is how our code would look without using the form builder macro. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna import my form builder macro. So add package dependencies. Since it's a local one, let's add a local package. So this is the macro that we have created, my demo macro, and I'm gonna add this macro. We just need this one inside our contact app. Let's add it. Okay, missing package product. So this can happen in Xcode once the first time you add a macro. So all you can do is just clear your derived data or quit Xcode and then just reopen it again. Let's do that. Let me just clear my derived data. Since I'm adding this package for the first time, it may take some time to load the macros. So perfect. Yeah, here you can see my demo macro is already added. And along with that, I have got a package, Swift syntax package. So now in over here, I'm gonna use my form builder at form builder. So I'll be using my form builder macro. So for that, I need to import my package also. Import my demo macro. Yeah, let's look at the preview. Oh, wait. If I'm using this form builder macro, I won't need this body anymore. The macro will be automatically building the body for me. Let's wait for the preview. Perfect. So without providing the body also, just with this annotation, I could create my form. So just like we did earlier, let's create another variable, maybe show alert, which is a Boolean, maybe some other variable for say address. It's a string for now. Let it be empty string. So it will be automatically creating the text field for me. So all I have done is just declared my variables over here, and based on the type, it's automatically creating the form for me. So I need not have to repetitively write my text fields and toggle buttons and all the UI. It will be, the form builder will be automatically building the UI for me. So in this case, I have just done with string and Boolean but you can do it with any of the type, for any of the type, you can build custom UI also. So for this demo purpose, I have done with string and Boolean alone. So our code now looks pretty clean and it's easy for maintain also. Suppose that you have plenty of variables over here, it will be a very big view for you to maintain if you are doing it manually. But if you could use a macro, then it will be automatically built for you. So yeah, that's all about building automatic UIs using macros. If you have any questions, do ping me. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suprita, for the session. I think there are a couple questions in the chat. If you could just respond to them, it would be
Sure.
helpful.
Can you please share the assist part of the file? I think you may be referring to the Stringify macro. So that was not created by me. If you are creating a macro, Swift macro file, it will be automatically generated for you. It's like a sample for a macro. You can just refer that and build. So it will be automatically built by Xcode. I didn't do anything with that. PPT source references is possible. Sure, I'll send it. Um, uh, I'll just do it in the chat now. Um, uh, mm, I have pasted the link for the PPT in the chat. Uh, if you want to keep toggle as well as segmented control together in a form which depend on Boolean member, how can we do that using macro? Yeah, that will be a bit difficult to implement because for a single type to show multiple view, it will be difficult. Uh, but if you could create a custom type, maybe a struct, and this is just my idea. If you could create a custom struct and inside that, if you could pass the Boolean, or if for a segmented control, I think there will be title also. So if you could pass that model and based on the so the type will be the type of that model. So based on that also you can switch the UI. Yeah, that's actually a difficult one to, if you have a Boolean and to show two different view for a same type, it will be difficult. Is it mandatory to create package? What if I want the macro to be part of my project code base? To create a macro, I think it's always a package, but it's a local one. It will just act like it's part of your code itself. Um, so to create a macro, it's usually you need to create it as a package. Yeah. Any other questions? How do we validate these fields? Um, if the validation is common, like maybe for email and for text field, if that's common, you can write a simple validation. You can write the styling validation, everything in that. But if you need custom validations for each of the field, then that won't work. Yeah. So macros are just actually developing. It was very recently introduced in Swift in 5.9. So we are hoping that in the late coming versions, it will be used widely. How does it work with MVVM architecture? For MVVM architecture also, uh, you will be having the model with you, right? So you can annotate with the model also. So here we are annotating it with the view. So in that case, you can annotate it with the model. But in that case, you will have to control the state property manually. You will have to write the getters and setters. Yeah, if you could write the getters and setters inside the macro, and you can annotate that with the model. Is it possible to apply multiple macros to a single struct? Uh, that I haven't tried yet. Uh, um, I think that won't be possible. I think because there can be conflicts between two macros. I think I'm not sure. Uh, I might refer to it and get back to you. Any other questions?
I think we're done with the questions. Thank you so much, Sukrita, for answering all the questions.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, it was great to have both of you giving us two wonderful talks for the day. We'll be sharing these soft copies of the certificates very soon. Thank you. And moving ahead, before we get into the breakout rooms, there are a few important announcements also that needs to be done. Let's quickly look into those as well. Yeah, so I think everybody is already aware, and you all are in touch with Swift Bengaluru social media accounts as well. If not, yeah, please do scan the QR code and follow us on our social media pages. So yeah, I would proudly like to tell that Swift Bengaluru is organizing these meetups almost every month. So in order to handle these and organize them so smoothly, I'm sure this team is doing wonders. So thank you for all of them who are working and putting in a lot of efforts in organizing these events. So huge shout out to all of them. This is the team working behind. Yeah, and here's a list of all the previous venues who have hosted us for the previous events. Yeah, again, a huge shout out to all of them. Yeah, with that, we would like to call for collaboration wherein, if anyone is interested to volunteer with us, or if you think your company is willing to sponsor us for our next events, kindly to reach out to us. And you can also contribute to the Swift open source as well. So anyone who is interested, you can always reach out to any of our Swift Bengaluru core members teams. And yeah, the most exciting part here is I'm sure everybody is already aware of this. So aware of Swift Bharat. So it's happening on 26th and 27th September in Bangalore. Would like to meet all of you there. If you need any more details on this, kindly reach out to us. Yeah, I would request everyone to, switch on your cameras for a group selfie.
Request everyone to turn on camera if possible. And let's wait for seconds. Okay, sorry, I think it's. Let me quickly turn. Now everyone can try. Sorry about that.
Uh, Thanks, Nayan. I think it's done, right? Is it clicked? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Yeah. So moving forward, let me quickly share my screen. Yeah. So hoping to see you all at our next event, which is on 25th of September in Christ University. Yeah. Now Yogesh will be, taking this forward with the breakout sessions.
Uh, hey guys, Yogesh this side. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Uh, yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed these sessions. It was two very excellent talks by very good speakers. So I'll just give a brief about what breakout rooms are. Basically, like if this was an in-person meetup, then you would gather with other people in the room and just discuss about anything and everything related to iOS, Swift, or whatever you're working, like technical aspects or non-technical aspects, right? So that's the aim of these breakout rooms. We'll be creating smaller groups. So right now we are 26, 27 odd participants. We'll be creating smaller groups, and in that smaller groups, you can discuss about like these things. Like I have given some icebreaker questions over here. Just read it out, and we can start discussing about this. Okay. I hope everyone gets the point. Nayan, Kirti, can you create the groups now?
Yes, sure, Yogesh, I will do that. So we have people are dropping, that's fine. So we have around 20 people. So I'll just create a 4 or 5 groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have done. So maybe 10-15 minutes when people can do kind of online networking. Yeah, hi Chetan, hi Uday. We have Saurav also. Can you people hear me?
So can we drop off?
If you're done with networking, you can drop off, or otherwise I can send you to another room, where people are still discussing. Can you hear me, Vijay?
Yes, yeah.
Can I send you to another room?
Yeah, sure.
1 minute. Yeah, over to you, Preeti.
Nayan, so we have got lots of new speakers for Swift Bharat.
On.
That's great. Like I was seeing, like on, like we have got Charlie Chapman, two from
Correct.
New Cat, and one more. Like so, it's great.
Good.
So,
Good.
are the registrations still open?
I think we are close because we have to give tickets to sponsors also, right? So from that point of view, looks like we are close. But if you know someone, and if someone very then please let us know. We can find some options.
Okay. Yeah. So there were few people. Let's see.
Yeah. Just let us know. Yeah.
I am also on wait list.
Oh, is it? Okay. So you hope you are talking to someone whom you are talking.
No, I got an email that you are on the wait list.
Okay. Fine. Thanks, everyone. Kirti, if you are around, probably we can conclude. It looks like Yogesh might have dropped mistakenly because when you leave room, right, you should not say leave meeting. Otherwise, basically you drop it. Oh, yeah, definitely we will do more online session. We are planning for quarterly online session in collaboration with all Swift Delhi, Swift Ahmedabad, Swift Bangalore, Swift Mumbai, all of them. Let's see how we can do it. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate for your time. Please share your feedback and let us know if you want to give a talk. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.